On my morning walk, just sat by on the swing for some swing talk. I want to talk about creating from presence versus creating from ego, and the massive difference between the two in outcome and in the nature of your life when creating from these two. So in the past month or two, I've been talking a lot about accessing that awareness, right? Going past this sense of identity, this sense of self as being this limited body and mind, and going a little beyond, shifting your sense of identity from the physical to that non-physical awareness, within which the physical is just a projection, just a movie playing. And in this, I want to further categorize the two. Meaning, I want to talk about the distinct qualities of creating from this perspective of being this body-mind, and the creating from the perspective of that infinite, unlimited awareness. Now, when you're creating from ego, from mind, from thoughts, all three words mean the same thing. Thoughts are mind. Mind is ego. All the same thing. Okay? So when you're creating from this perspective, there's a constant state of lack. There's a constant state of, I am not enough, and I need to accumulate more, and I need to do more, and I need to compete with whoever. I need to avoid the bad. I need to run away and make sure that I don't experience any negative things, negative emotions. And so it's just this constant state of anxiety where you're trying to chase the good and avoid the bad. But it is 100% a state of lack, because the ego, no matter how much it gets, no matter how much it accumulates, it will always feel that it's not enough. And you can see this in your own past. Maybe you went from being broke to rich, but you still didn't feel like every single day you were still operating through this kind of belief that I'm not enough, right? There was still more to get. Maybe you went from having no relationship to having a beautiful relationship, but still even in that relationship, there was this feeling of like, oh, now am I going to lose it? Or am I enough to maintain this relationship? And like all that stuff, right? So no matter how much the ego accumulates, there's always a sense of neediness. There's always a sense of, I am not enough. There is not enough. And I need more, and I need to accumulate, and I need to work really hard, and I need to strive in order to secure whatever I'm chasing, right? So that I can finally feel worthy. And on this path, there are usually little hits of satisfaction, little hits of gratification when you accomplish something, when you gain something. And then right after that, it's just falling back into the chase and constantly then just chasing, pursuing something, feeling like you're becoming something. So that is a path that you will always be subject to if you're creating from body mind. There will always be just the process. You're always struggling, you're always achieving, and there's this sense of struggle, right? There's a sense of effort. There's this sense of constant like, oh, am I gonna make it? Am I gonna make it? And it's like this anxious, like this anxiety within you, no matter how acute it is. There's always just going on in the background. And it's quite honestly exhausting if you haven't noticed. Now, when I talk about deepening your sense of self, right? I don't mean to just say that. I don't mean to say create from presence, because it'll allow you to have more. It'll allow you to create more, because then again, you're just trying to access presence from the ego. Let me access presence and be more spiritual so that I can create more. I could make more money. I could do this. See, then again, you're just still identified with ego, trying to only access presence as a means to an end, to secure the better life. So that's a trap that, be careful of falling into, because I certainly did. I certainly do all the time still. But it's something that you have to keep in check. It's something you have to keep in balance. Now, what I mean by creating for presence, when deepening this sense of self, deepening this sense of who I believe myself to be, who I identify with being beyond this body and mind. What I mean by that, right? On that path, there is this sense of, you have to get comfortable with a sense of not planning, not knowing exactly what is going to happen in each moment, how each moment will unfold, how each situation or project or relationship will unfold, and being comfortable with not there So on this path, right, from creating from presence, there is no one constantly in your brain figuring things out and trying to bring them into existence and force them into existence. There is no sense of struggle. There is a sense of spontaneous creation, moment by moment. Placing yourself in situations naturally in which you don't know what's going to come out of your mouth or how it's going to unfold, but there's a sense of knowing that it will all be okay. And in that, when you're coming from that perspective of that higher consciousness, that presence, that beingness, the spontaneous unfoldment of events is always, first of all, effortless, but always also more natural, more the feeling of abundance, and just this sense of flow that takes care of you at all times. And that is the place of trust. That is the place of allowing life to take care of life. And quite paradoxically, on this path, when you let go of control, when you're coming from that presence, when you let go of that mental control, you just end up gaining more control. And only when you're creating from presence do you actually start to reflect and then realize, right? All the problems, all the obstacles that used to come up all the time were actually being created by the planning, by the constant mental projections of past and future, by the constant expectations and attachments of the mind, of the ego. And all those external obstacles were always just a reflection of, back to you, of yourself, of all of those mental projections. And on the path of creating from presence, there's a sense of flow, there's a sense of spontaneity, there's a sense of obstacles taking care of themselves, even if they arise, right? Obstacles not necessarily being even obstacles, rather just situations that are being dealt with in this present moment. And it's not something that can be planned. Flow is never something that can be planned. It is only something that can be experienced in this moment. If you're trying to figure out, okay, how do I access the flow state, you've already lost it. As soon as you start thinking about the flow state, you fall out of it. As soon as you start thinking about presence, you fall out of it. Creating from presence is what will allow you to truly create the life that is harmonious. That is the life you truly want to live at a deeper level. On a mental level, you may think you want all these things and you want to create all this, and that keeps you in a constant chase. But creating from presence, you feel this sense of wholeness. You feel this sense of completeness. Like you don't have to do or achieve something in order to become a certain somebody and feel a sense of wholeness and completeness and fulfillment. You come from all of those things. You come from that happiness, right? That presence, the nature of that presence is love, is oneness, is happiness, is peace. And when you're coming from that, there's no sense of I need to do this in order to secure this so that I can feel this way. Instead, there's this sense of freedom and peace and well-being right here in the now, through which you create. And whatever is being created, you accept, meaning you don't resist it. You allow yourself to stay in that presence and then let the events of life unfold spontaneously and simply just enjoy the movie. And that's what the sense of that's where the sense of effortlessness comes from. Because what unfolds is usually harmonious, is usually pleasant. And even when it's not, then there's no one in your mind resisting so much so that it doesn't create suffering. So truly, this is the path of least resistance. This is the path of least effort. This is the path of your life best lived, most effortlessly lived. Simplicity at its best. Creating from presence. A sense of wholeness being here rather than somewhere in the future. A sense of happiness being here rather than somewhere in the future. And this is what allows you to create that life of well-being. Well-being is not something you have to create. Well-being is not something you have to chase. It exists right here in the now. So those are just some of the distinct qualities between creating from presence versus creating from ego. And I want to hear your experience, right? Like, ever since you've started this journey, how have you noticed the difference between the two? Because at least we've all had glimpses of the two. And I want to know your experience in the comment section below. I love reading those responses. If this video helped you gain some clarity on that, I urge you to watch a lot of my self-inquiry videos, right? The videos that actually help you deepen this sense of self. Watch my meditation videos, which will help you access this deeper presence away from mind, right? Not even necessarily away from mind, but actually transcendent of mind. That presence is always here. It is nowhere else. It is nowhere far in the future. It is always here. And it's something that you just need to start recognizing and then shifting your sense of self to. And it happens naturally once you start meditation and self-inquiry. So make sure you watch my meditation playlist, my self-inquiry playlist. And if you really want to take this to the next level and start to really gain my mentorship to create this change in your life and to start creating from this higher consciousness perspective, then you could feel free to apply to my accelerated reality program. The link for that is in the description box below too. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Subscribe to this channel if you haven't already, and I will see you in the next video.